Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko number 147SN. This is a satin nickel anodized aluminum water return interlocking threshold. This is a 6-inch sample piece. It's literally just a sample piece of the 147, and the 147 is representative of this profile, and this profile means a few things. Obviously, its dimensional properties, the fact that it's an interlock and that it is a water return, and we'll talk about all that in a moment. The SN means, of course, satin nickel, and that's what anodized satin nickel looks like from Pemko. Now, in all fairness, this actual sample is significantly lighter than what I have seen historically from Pemko. It is far more complementary compared to the past SN or satin nickel finishes. Two things here. I do notice that there is variation in the satin nickel from Pemko, and I don't know why. My guess is that they have different people who anodize, and maybe they are continually trying to get it better and focus on one anodizer to do the work. But the material has not been completely consistent. However, this exact model here is very complementary to satin nickel. There's really nothing to be worried about in the sense of it not matching another piece of weather stripping, in the sense that it won't be completely identically adjacent to a piece of perimeter gasketing, or is it, nor is it an adjustable oak or adjustable aluminum top satin nickel threshold where you're going to add an extension. Sometimes those two pieces have not been exactly the same satin nickel, but this is an exceptional finish, in my opinion. It's complementary, it's not exact. Anodizing is not plating something on solid brass like satin nickel actually is. Speaking of the finishes at length, and to wrap that up, this will be available in the A finish for mill aluminum, the BDG for bright dip gold, the D for dark bronze anodized, G for gold anodized, which is a matte finish, compared to the bright dip gold, which is literally bright. It's shiny, it's metallic. Then the SN for satin nickel. Now, let's talk about it. The 147, we spoke about it being synonymous with its dimensional properties. 4-inch wide, and then it's 1.5 inches tall. So this is on the high end, certainly, of interlocking thresholds. This is water return. Let's talk about that. You see the significant trough that's here. Okay, and you can see that trough run down here, inside of here. Now, water return, what does that mean? If this was the genuine article, it ought to have, meaning it should have, meaning if you don't tell us to not ship it without them, they'll have weep holes. Weep holes are just very small holes. There might be 3 and a 3-foot threshold that are drilled down in here. So any water that actually got inside of the door, to the inside face of where the door is, would run here. A weep hole system has a very small filing that's been done to the face of the threshold, so that water can enter here, exit out, and out towards the front of the threshold. And that's standard design for interlocking thresholds. Generally it is, especially one when it's tall. You could do an interlock that's 5/8 tall and it wouldn't have a trough because it's not tall enough. You'll notice that you have to select either water pan required or no water pan required. A water pan is made of either aluminum or brass. It's just sheet metal, really, and it's just nothing other than a piece of sheet metal that would sit down here to act as a barrier to any moisture that did get in. You don't want it sitting on top of your limestone sill or your wood structure, whatever it is, over years. That would certainly corrode or work to corrode the bottom of your sill. I do not suggest buying an aluminum panel with a bronze threshold. You can do solid architectural bronze from Pemko. You shouldn't mix dissimilar metals. That's basic. There is a big difference between the cost of a brass water pan and an aluminum water pan, but I'd have to technically argue that they would not really warrant an application where you were using an other material, I should say, compared to the threshold. I would think that would go both ways. Aluminum, stick with aluminum. Architectural bronze, stick with brass. So we've gone over the dimensional properties. We've gone over the weep hole. Now let's talk about the fact that it's interlocking. You're going to get a hook strip with every one of these. And their hook strips from Pemko do change over time. This is what this current one looks like. And it literally hooks into this lip right here. And when it's installed, it looks just like this. Can you imagine a more positive mechanical connection between the door and the frame? This nails to the bottom of the door, and nails are included, literally nails to it, and a little giddy up that's here is helpful for the head of the screws, but they don't always include that little offset. Sometimes the width of the bird's mouth for the hook is a little bit larger to account, but you'll nail this to the bottom of the door. When the door closes, it will lock here and give you the utmost in seal at the bottom. Interlocking thresholds and weather stripping, for that matter, are known to last decades. The only time when you have a failure of a piece of interlocking thresholds generally is when the door is no longer properly fitting, and over time the hook strip, we call it a J hook, as you can see why, will fatigue and get bent, or someone will remove the door and put the door down and then crush the hook strip. So replacing this is easy. That's no problem. That's the, I believe the part number is Z61 from Pemko for their zinc hook strip. Indeed it is. The zinc hook strip from Pemko, the current crop is going to be flat up here and again have a slightly wider scenario here. So you can easily order just a replacement hook strip, which are not uncommon. The door gets unhung and then gets, that hook can get damaged. Now back to the threshold. People in the know, people who have used interlocking thresholds, seem to swear by them because they do absolutely, positively, mechanically lock the bottom of the threshold. It's very old technology. I would imagine that interlock thresholds are 19... Oh, I couldn't even guess. Several decades old, tried and true sort of installation. Now, 1.5 inches, a bit on the tall side, certainly for a residential application, but not unheard of at all. You might be able to use this, you might be using this because you just literally require 1.5 inch threshold. I've also sold these to people who have ripped out all the shag carpeting, changed the subfloor for whatever they needed to, or adjusted the height of the door. Maybe a new door went in and they literally needed to pick up that much room, and having a door sweep didn't seem very elegant, and having a concealed connection on the bottom of the door with that hook strip was or is a very smart way to go, okay? Because what you're really dealing with is something surface mounted. You're going to be dragging that across the floor back over the threshold, so interlocks are real good for that, okay? This is in addition to all the finishes that we had mentioned earlier. It's going to be available in lots of different lengths, everything really from 2 foot to 8 foot. You can do a longer length if you like, but we don't list those because the cost to ship something longer than 8 foot is always prohibitive. But if you have need for a length longer, reach out to us. We'll be happy to quote that to you. If this was the genuine article, you're going to get a countersink at about 4 or 5 inches from the end, and then every perhaps 8 inches or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe about 12 inch or so, 10 inch perhaps. What I generally find is that if you've got a 3 foot threshold, it'll have 4 holes. If you've got a 7 foot threshold, it'll have 8 holes. That's generally what it is. The point being this: if you have need for a custom length, by all means, order the next longest piece and just simply indicate in the comment field the net length that you want us to ship it out at. It'll save you the trouble of having to cut it. You're going to get a real nice factory edge on that cut. But it'll also save you the trouble of having to drill and countersink a new hole. And if this was the genuine article, you're going to have some flathead number 10 by about 2.5 inch Phillips drive wood screws that would sink all the way down to complete the installation of this. So if you order the custom length, the next longest piece or pieces, indicate in the comment field. We'll ship this at the proper length, the hook strip at the proper length as well, and the screws located at the proper center to center and distance from the edge. Okay. The name Pemko is synonymous with all things weather stripping related. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Pemko products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, along with a link to the full product catalog. Pardon me, if you have any questions on the Pemko 147SN Satin nickel anodized aluminum water return interlocking threshold, or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.